Hey everybody, Kara Castanova here at the White House for DC Live, talking about so many things that are going on today at the White House. And one of them, which has personal significance for me, is at 4 o'clock p.m. today, President Trump will be making a speech honoring Purple Heart Day. I didn't even know until the president announced that he will be doing this ceremony here in the East Room of the White House that there was a Purple Heart Day. My father actually was a recipient of the Purple Heart. So I'm glad to know that this day exists, and a little bit of information on Purple Heart Day. It is, I have some notes here. The Purple Heart, well, we'll first talk about what the Purple Heart is. If you've never seen it before, it is a medal that is awarded to people in the military that were injured or died in battle. And it's more than just a medal. It's actually the oldest military decoration still awarded in the United States. It was created by General George Washington, who I actually saw his birthplace over the weekend. It was amazing. This guy was super badass. Sorry for you, but using my French, he was really a tough guy. I wish we had a bleep there, but I was so impressed by George Washington. I think he was such a cool guy. General George Washington, and just how tough this guy was before he became president and he won the Revolutionary War for the United States. But it was created by General George Washington himself in 1782 during the Revolutionary War, and he called it at that time the Badge of Military Merit. And he made one thing clear: this is not for the rich and famous, because he really wanted to honor the soldiers who were unnamed or the soldiers who were not famous. This is for the common soldier. And he believed that the bravery on the battlefield, that bravery should be honored no matter your rank or notoriety. Since then, the Purple Heart has been awarded to 1.8 million people, 1.8 million soldiers, to heroes in every American war. Some of the most famous recipients include Senator John McCain, who was a prisoner of war, as you know, in Vietnam; Pat Tillman, the NFL player who left football to fight in Afghanistan; Charles Durning, the actor who survived the D-Day landings; and James Garner, the actor, the old Hollywood actor, who was wounded in Korea before Hollywood ever even knew his name. But for every celebrity or senator, like I mentioned earlier, there are millions of others, like my father, quiet warriors who never ask to be noticed. And they have received that award. So Purple Heart is often called the medal no one wants to earn, obviously, but everybody who wears it carries a piece of history and often a wound that can never fully be healed. President Trump will be making remarks today from the East Room in honor of Purple Heart Day, and possibly making other announcements as well. And I will be there. There are some friends of mine that will be there as well, other Purple Heart recipients or family members of that will be there in the East Room on this very special day. So that is what is going on today on the president's agenda, besides signing executive orders currently right now having to do with HHS. And we're waiting for news of that executive order that so many people are really looking forward to. The executive order having to do with banking. And I have some notes here I'm going to read to you, because I really did a deep dive into this. This is an issue that really people need to be paying attention to, debanking, and that's Democrats and Republicans alike. Let's talk about that executive order and the Biden regime's unconstitutional actions. Of course, they just didn't respect the Constitution. They may as well have, used it as toilet paper, the Biden regime, because they just didn't care about American people's rights. And that includes the First Amendment, due process, and so many other things. So President Trump, this was reported by Semaphore today. It reports that as of August 7, 2025, President Trump is preparing an executive order aimed at penalizing banks retroactively, is a key word here. So this is banks that did this to the president back in 2021. They can't now get away with it. These banks that are kissing butt of the president, like Chase, like Bank of America, now that he's president again, they weren't so friendly to the president when they debanked him after January 6th. So this is retroactive. It will retroactively penalize these banks for engaging in politicized or unlawful debanking, even if those banks have since reversed course. Now, this draft that was released today, this would empower banking regulators to impose fines, consent decrees, or other disciplinary measures on financial institutions that previously closed accounts for political or religious reasons, even if they've since changed those practices. The order is expected to be signed this week, possibly today, possibly tomorrow, maybe as early, hopefully as early as today or tomorrow, but definitely I think by next week, might even be signing. The president might even be signing this executive order as we speak. There is an executive order signing going on behind closed doors without press. Literally, that was at 12 o'clock, so that should be wrapping up right now. We will obviously keep monitoring that and let you know if that executive order was signed. Now, according to earlier reports, such as from the New York Post, who's really done some great reporting on this, both JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America debanked President Trump following the January 6th Capitol quote unquote riot, allegedly under pressure from the Biden administration. It's not alleged. The Biden administration, this is my opinion, certainly pressured these banks unconstitutionally to debank his political opposition. That would be President Donald Trump, never believing he would become president again. They really tried to kill and cancel the guy. They were unsuccessful because in the end, God wins. But I happen to have personal knowledge of emails because I work with the Gateway Pundit. I still write for Gateway Pundit. And for the 4 years of the Biden regime, I was writing a lot of articles for the Gateway Pundit on the January 6th political prisoners. And the Gateway Pundit was a co-defendant, rather a co-plaintiff in a lawsuit called Biden v. Missouri, where the Biden administration, acting like the thugs that they are and the mobsters that they are, literally sending these Biden official administrators, the auto pen, we call them, lawless, completely lawless, from government emails. They never thought that they would lose power. They thought that this was going to be forever, that the Biden regime would continue with Kamala and the next goon, the next minion that they put into position. They never thought that Trump would come back in. So government emails sent to social media companies, literally saying, you better remove these people right now. Deplatform Tucker Carlson. You better take down this person right now that's questioning the vaccine. You better take down this person right now, or heads will roll. And this is coming from the top. I'm literally quoting an email literally sent by an Biden auto pen administrator saying this is coming from the very top. This was aimed at social media companies. And the very top means Biden, I guess, if he was, still there in the head, that you are to remove these social media accounts from these people who are not agreeing with the government narrative pertaining to COVID, pertaining to the election, pertaining to abortion, and all of these things, all these narratives that the Biden regime was forcing down the American people's throats through their minions in the mainstream media. The problem they had was that there was social media companies and smaller alternate news sites that were reporting real facts. So they had to do everything in their power to deplatform these people. And this all exists in government emails. And this was all discovery in the Biden v. Missouri case that Gateway Pundit was a co-plaintiff on. So I was able to see some of these mobster-like emails from the Biden regime to the social media companies, literally infringing on the free speech of so many Americans. I don't doubt that these very same gangster mobsters wrote and used government emails, and this will be proven, and you could, commemorate this in your mind that I said it first. These emails will be found from Biden administrators, from auto pen signers that were in the Biden administration. Not the smartest. President Trump says high IQ people surrounding Biden and Kamala, but really they weren't that high IQ in the sense that, I'll put it this way. They thought they would never get caught, that they were so arrogant that they thought that they would be in power forever and that these emails would never be looked at again by a future administration. They just thought that they could get away with whatever they wanted. I guarantee that there's emails where these administrators were basically arm-barring like mobsters these banks to remove President Trump and conservatives like Proud Boys, like J6ers, to kick them out of banks, to debank them. This is something that I am 100% certain will be proven without a shadow of a doubt with emails. Because guess what? President Trump had hundreds of millions of dollars in these banks. Like, you don't just kick someone out of a bank that has hundreds of $1 million invested in your bank just because, unless you're getting pressure. And banks are more afraid of, just like President Trump said, regulation more than anything. They were being threatened with regulation by the Biden regime. And that is why they debanked President Trump and many other conservatives, just like they were being threatened. The social media companies were being threatened with regulations by the Biden regime if they didn't remove certain people from social media, like myself, who was kicked off Facebook for life. By the way, I have a lifetime ban from Facebook. Still hasn't been reinstated my account, even though Mark Zuckerberg, the fraud that he is going around saying he's now for free speech and realizing that it's a little bit more cool to be like, I don't know, Elon Musk than like Mark Zuckerberg of the past, who's now kissing up to President Trump. I still haven't received my Facebook account back and all my intellectual property that was taken away from me, by the way. Debanking is a human rights issue. Cutting people off from banking access is a digital death sentence, obviously, in today's economy. And whether it's President Trump, a Christian charity, or a gun store owner, this kind of financial punishment obviously violates core American values. Now, somebody out there, if I have the time, I will do it myself. I'm putting this into the universal mind. You can please write me on Lindell TV or on social media under @Cara Castronova. If you, as citizen journalists, and this is something I really respect about Candace Owens, she always likes to employ the people that are watching, the citizen journalists out there that have the time to file these Freedom of Information Act requests. You, as people, have just as much rights as we as journalists to file FOIAs with the government to expose them. We the people own the government, obviously, and all of these documents and all of these emails out there, and they should be released to the public. Let's talk about the possible constitutional violations, then who we can send Freedom of Information Act requests to prove without a shadow of a doubt that the Biden administration violated the constitutional rights of so many Americans, including President Trump, J6ers, Christians, and others, by forcing banks to debank. First Amendment, this is a freedom of speech and association. Government actors cannot coerce private entities to punish individuals for their political speech or associations. Obviously, I mean, I guess the Biden regime didn't get that. They thought that this was communist China or maybe the KGB Russia. I don't know. Maybe Biden was a little bit confused there. Case precedent, Bantam Books v. Sullivan, 1963. The Supreme Court held that informal government pressure, not formal legal action, that chill speech can still violate the Constitution. And in 2022, that was only 3 years ago, O. Hensley v. Weber, this is a Supreme Court case. The court ruled that if government actors coerce or significantly encourage a private actor like a bank to suppress speech, the state can be held responsible. The state, that in this case being the Biden regime and the AutoPen and whatever associates Joe Biden was colluding with to suppress free speech by debanking people, by literally terrorizing American citizens from speaking freely because they were afraid they would be debanked. This is all going to come out. This is all going to come out. I promise you guys that, just like everything with Russiagate is coming out, this is going to be a big indictment. I truly believe that in the next year. We have to find the receipts, and those receipts are out there. Trust me when I tell you. Okay, what other possible constitutional violations of the Biden regime against the people of the United States? The Fifth Amendment, Due Process Clause, debanking someone under secret government pressure without notice or the ability to challenge the action could violate procedural due process. Particularly relevant if the action denies someone access to basic financial services necessary for livelihood. Like, I don't know, your money in your bank account. It's absolutely absolutely a violation of the due process clause. People are going to go to jail. Equal protection, a violation of the 14th Amendment. The Biden administration, we allege, violated the 14th Amendment by selectively targeting President Trump, conservatives, and others while leaving similarly situated individuals untouched. This could raise an equal protection claim, particularly if there's clear political bias in enforcement or policy pressure, which obviously that is, the backbone of all this clear political bias. Okay, the key legal concept, state action doctrine. While private companies, now we know this because of everything that happened with social media, then it was revealed with the Twitter files and the Biden v. Missouri case that the Gateway pundit was involved in, and the state of Missouri against the Biden regime. Private companies, you're right, they're not bound by the Constitution, but the same concept here is that government coerced action by private companies are. So government coerced action. So now if these banks were being coerced by private companies, first of all, I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. If these private companies were being coerced by the government, two things could happen. Obviously, those government officials could be held criminally liable, and they could go to jail because this is a violation of the Constitution, the First Amendment, and due process when government officials are literally using private companies to censor free speech. They're not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to do that. It is 100% against the most original law, which is the First Amendment, the most important amendment. They can't do that. And secondly, these private companies could actually be held liable as well if indeed it is proven that the government they actually become a government actor at that point. These banks, these social media companies, if they're trying to avoid regulations in order to further enrich themselves because they don't want to be regulated, actually they become arms of the government and they can be held liable for violating the Constitution, which is in my opinion, and many legal experts' opinion, what happened here with these very, very nefarious banks. Now, if federal officials threatened or induced banks into debanking Trump, it becomes government censorship by proxy, which is unconstitutional. The bottom line is this. If evidence surfaces that government officials, and it will, because God always wins, coerced or colluded with banks to punish President Trump, his supporters, conservatives, or anybody else for that matter for political reasons, this could be a violation of the First and Fifth Amendments, grounds for civil rights lawsuits under 42 U.S. Code 1983. That's one of my favorite U.S. codes, by the way, and potentially a criminal abuse of power. Whew, a lot of stuff there to unpack, but this is the next big indictment. I truly believe, I really do, because it doesn't just point to the banks. It also points to pay servers like PayPal, like Stripe, which is a payment processor that I happen to know from personal experience and talking to so many J6ers that lost their PayPal accounts, that are not able to use Venmo or Zelle, that are not able to use Stripe and other payment processors. It's not just banks, it's extensions of banks that violated the law. And I truly believe that the Biden administration, we're pushing these companies as well, now that all this stuff is coming out, to literally make it impossible to survive in the United States. Obviously, we live by the cell phone, all of the apps of the cell phone, like payment, like Zelle, like PayPal. I use Zelle, I use PayPal, I pay my lease. I pay my rent every month here in DC with Venmo. So the way that they went about removing any rights to use these apps from a lot of the J6ers that I spoke to during the Biden regime, the Biden reign of terror, I like to call it, really crippled these people because they were unable to use Uber. They were unable to use dating apps, unable to use Facebook, unable to use Uber Eats, anything that you need basically to survive, especially in a city in the modern day. And that really includes PayPal, obviously, and all of these different apps that you use to purchase things. J6ers were banned from using. And nobody talks about that stuff. So that has to come into the conversation next. Maybe I will file a Freedom of Information Act to prove that the Biden regime certainly was pressing these private companies to get rid of J6ers and anybody that disagreed with them. Because again, these private companies, when it comes down to it, all they care about is the cash. They don't really, I don't think when it comes down to it, care about politics. Maybe some of the more woke companies do, but in my opinion, they were getting pressure from the Biden regime. Now, who could we FOIA? That is the notes I have here. Let me just scroll down. And the possible charges, by the way. You know what? Let's talk about that first. Possible charges against these unnamed Biden officials alluded to in the New York Post. Conspiracy against rights, U.S. Code 241. This criminalizes two or more persons conspiring to deprive someone of constitutional rights. Felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison. This is great. Or more if actions caused harm. Now we know that these people exist. The New York Post, a reputable news source, as far as my opinion goes, is saying that they have very credible sources that are saying that this all occurred. They're, as of right now, unnamed, but I'm sure names will come out as time progresses. Another possible charge against these unnamed Biden AutoPen administrators, 18 U.S. Code 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. 1983. That is that U.S. code. It's one of my favorites because these people literally abuse their power under color of law, and that applies when government officials use their authority to violate someone's constitutional rights, such as freedom of speech or association. In the case of these banks, and if proven, this could directly implicate many Biden federal officials. Number 3, 18 U.S. Code 371, conspiracy to defraud the United States could be applied if officials work together to manipulate banks into acting in politically motivated ways under false pretenses, like false claims of risk. This is obviously what was done. They defrauded the United States. This is something I think that will appear on a future indictment of these unnamed, soon-to-be named individuals that were pushing the banks unconstitutionally to get rid of President Trump, to throw his hundreds of millions of dollars out, and to debank so many more Americans and so many more conservatives. It's absolutely ludicrous. Number 4, abuse of power and official misconduct. This is something, again, that these officials can be, indicted for. Though not always codified as a federal statute, this can be used under related laws for using official government power to carry out a personal or political vendetta. This is literally the definition of a political vendetta. The Biden administration was just so afraid in the deep state of President Trump and his supporters, really more afraid of America First and, the populist wave that put President Trump in 2016. They just wanted to kill the populist wave. They wanted to kill the people, more than half the country that were just sick and tired and fed up with the elites. Just sick and tired and fed up with the elites. They just wanted to kill us forever and ever, a political vendetta. So, obviously now it's being reported, unnamed officials are saying that the Biden administration itself was literally pressuring these banks using the threat of regulations, political vendetta against President Donald J. Trump and his supporters and the United States as an extension. This is an interesting one. Another possible indictment, another possible count on a hopefully future indictment. The Hatch Act violations, U.S. Code 5, U.S. Code 7323. If government officials used their position to interfere with a political opponent, that would be Donald Trump, that violates the Hatch Act, which bars executive employees from partisan coercion. These are usually civil offenses, but these can be tied to other criminal conduct. So the bottom line is, if proof emerges, emails, phone logs, memos, and they will, because God always wins, that Biden officials, the Biden officials that coerced or conspired with banks to target Trump, can be held criminally liable. That is very real. Indictments could extend from senior White House staff to agency regulators, and this would mirror the very weaponization they falsely accused President Trump of. So this is all stuff, very good news that we have to look forward to, in my opinion. President Trump on top of this, because he was personally affected and his supporters were personally affected by this tyrannical Biden regime. And this can never happen again. Obviously, 3 years, 3.5 years is a long way from now. We don't know, what's going to happen in the 2028 election. A lot of people are hoping that, obviously J.D. Vance or another America First Republican will assume office. But as we know, historically, usually the power pendulum swings back and forth. Usually if you have a Republican in office, and this is unorthodox because President Trump obviously was president uh, with Biden in between, so he bookended that Biden regime of terror. Usually, in the case of, say, Bush, when he was president for 2 terms, then it swings Democrat. And then Obama was president for 2 terms, then it swings Republican. So this is just the historical facts. There might be a Democrat that comes into office, or maybe even worse, a rhino, a neocon rhino that comes in 2028. So it's important to codify this stuff into law. Hopefully, Congress will pass this into law. What President Trump is trying to do with this executive order regarding political persecution when it comes to banking and debanking, so important because we don't want to be debanked, obviously, in 2028 when President Trump is no longer president and somebody else comes into power. We don't want to be able to lose our livelihoods and be able to lose our access to our money and be able to pay for things like Uber or pay for things or have credit cards, especially now that they're really moving away from actually using cash. So this is such a weapon that can be used against the American people to really cripple a person. And now some places don't even accept cash. And you could be certain that in 2028, it's going to be even worse when it comes to establishments not accepting cash. So if you're not able to access a bank online, if you're not able to use Venmo or PayPal or any of these apps, then you basically are going to find it really hard to exist here in this country as a human being, unless the World Wide Web crashes. Hopefully, I always say that might be the best thing that could happen, and we return to old times where we don't have a World Wide Web, we don't have all of these apps. Sometimes I think that might be the best case scenario, but obviously that's a fantasy and that's not reality. We are going to become more and more digitized as a country, especially when it comes to payments made via payment processors and via banks and apps with banks. Everybody knows that Zelle always ties back to your bank, and if you don't have a bank, then you can't make a payment via Zelle. So it is just so important, I think, for Congress to jump on this and codify this into law. And I think that this should be bipartisan. I can't even think of a reason why Democrats would say that debanking should be legal based on political affiliation. It would be very interesting to see any arguments that Democrats would come up with in Congress to say that somebody should be able to be debanked because of their political affiliations or personal beliefs. It would be interesting. Very, very, very interesting. So we're going to talk a little bit more before we go to a break. We have a very special hearing coming up. And that hearing we'll talk about in a second, but I do want to just let everybody know that tomorrow is an interesting day here at the White House, and I'm interested to see what happens. The leaders, the presidents of Armenia and Azerbaijan will be visiting for a U.S. summit, and President Donald Trump will host Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. Okay, I'm going to say his name right, Pashinyan, and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev, and they are traveling to D.C. They will be here tomorrow, both for bilateral talks with President Trump and a larger trilateral summit. This summit aims to advance peace talks between Armenia and Azerbaijan over the Nagorno. Okay, guys, you're gonna have to excuse me here. The Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. This is the first time I'm saying it. I'll have this down by tomorrow in real time with hopes of finalizing or announcing a peace framework. Now, as you know, President Trump ran on the platform of being a peace president. So these peace talks, I think, are really important to him. This has been an ongoing conflict that could possibly turn into even more bloody, outright war. This is something that these countries have been working on a peace draft. So President Trump, I think, is hoping to solidify that tomorrow. A peace framework may be signed, potentially resolving long-standing tensions. And a major highlight is the TRIP, Transit Corridor Deal. Actually, they're naming this after Trump. So the T in TRIP stands for Trump. And this would link Azerbaijan this enclave via Armenian territory, and this corridor would carry exclusive U.S. developmental rights under Armenian law, operated commercially and dubbed the Trump route for international peace and prosperity. So this is all happening tomorrow, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow as it happens. But Armenia, for historical context, is the oldest Christian country in the world. It has a lot of Christians that live there, and there has been Christian persecution in Armenia. So we obviously have a special interest in this story. Persecuting any religious group, and that obviously includes Christians, is never, ever acceptable. So we'll talk a little bit more about the persecution of Christians in Armenia, the oldest Christian country in the world. More about that tomorrow on DC Live. And now we're going to go to earlier today, Secretary of the Army Dan Driscoll and Fort Stewart Senior Commander Army General John Lubis briefed the media at Fort Stewart, Georgia, following the active shooter incident at the U.S. military base yesterday. Let's go to that hearing, and I will see you later today on The Mike Lindell Show.
Injured and their families this morning. These soldiers who intervened or provided critical care and support during yesterday's events received awards, and the Secretary of the Army will provide some brief comments and take a few questions. This engagement is on the record, and we will have 15 minutes set aside. A couple of reminders: we will not release any of the names of our injured soldiers at this time. However, we will be able to provide you a status update on their general condition. We will not speculate on the assailant's motives or the circumstances that led to yesterday's events. We'd rather refer those questions to CID, as this is an ongoing investigation. When you ask your questions, we ask that you give your name and affiliation and speak up so that we can hear you and you can hear us. Now, I'd like to introduce the Secretary of the Army, the Honorable Dan Driscoll. His name is spelled D-A-N, last name Driscoll, D-R-I-S-C-O-L-L. And Brigadier General John Lubis, the Commanding General of the 3rd Infantry Division. Spelling is J-O-H-N, Lubis, L-U-B-A-S. And we will have CID representation also available. It's the Deputy Director of the Criminal Investigation Division, Peter Tolentino, P-E-T-E-R, T-O-L-E-B-T-I-N-O, and Special Agent in Charge Ryan O'Connor, R-Y-A-N-O C-O-N-N-O-R. They will be ready to speak to you regarding the shooting that occurred here yesterday at Fort Stewart. I'd like to now pause and I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you all for being here today. I am Dan Driscoll, Secretary of the United States Army. We had two main goals today. It was to come out and first off to support the victims and their families and the community that experienced the shooting tragedy yesterday. And the second one was to recognize the heroism, the courage, and the selfless service of 6 soldiers who put themselves in harm's way yesterday to take care of their fellow soldiers. I want to start off by saying we're standing at the brigade headquarters of the unit that had the shooting yesterday. And this morning, if you were here, what you would have seen is you would have seen a lot of soldiers out doing physical training and PT. That is incredibly important to us because we are highlighting the resilience of the American soldier. We are showing their strength and their courage under fire. They are going to spend the remainder of the day able to meet with counselors, but also getting back to their jobs, serving the American people. We spent this morning, General Lubis and I, visiting some of our soldiers who are in the hospital and meeting with their families. We talked to doctors, and one of the things that I can say unequivocally is that the fast action of these soldiers under stress and under trauma and under fire absolutely saved lives from being lost. On behalf of President Trump, Vice President Vance, Secretary Hegseth, they wanted me to tell these soldiers, their family, and this community that the entire federal government stands by and stands ready to care for these soldiers and their family. One of the more important things we were able to do this morning, though, is to recognize the heroism of these 6 soldiers. One of the soldiers tackled the person, so just think about this. They were unarmed and ran at and tackled an armed person who they knew was actively shooting their buddies, their colleagues, their fellow soldiers. Another soldier jumped on top of the person to subdue them until federal law enforcement was able to arrive. The other soldiers, immediately using their training that they had developed over years and years, started to take care of mass casualties. The hospital they took them to in March had just run a mass casualty exercise for a moment just like this. The Army does not want these moments to happen, but it stands ready when necessary to act and care for those when it does. The Army this year is 250 years old. That is 1 year older than this nation itself. These American soldiers highlight exactly what the Army has meant to this country. It has been there in some of the most traumatic moments of this nation's history, and it has been resilient, stood strong, and acted on behalf of American citizens. I just want to thank this community. It is absolutely unbelievable to me the speed with which law enforcement officers showed up, paramedics showed up. We had so many people showing up within the first hour that we actually had to stage some of them away. We are so grateful for this community and all that it does for our soldiers and their families. The investigation is ongoing. I imagine a lot of the questions we'll take will be related to that. We will not be able to answer some of those questions, but we are going to do a deep, hard investigation. The findings will be transparent. They will be released to the American public. We commit to you that anything we discover during the investigation that can make this base and other bases like it safer, we will act on as quickly as possible. Now I'm happy to take questions. Standing beside me, I have General Lubis, the Division Commander, and Special Agent O'Connor from Criminal Investigation Division. So let's kick off with some questions.
Mr. Secretary, Robert Trump at the time.
Hey, Rob.
Hi. Will there be any efforts by the DOD department to entrances to installations to look for things like personal weapons coming in and out of the base?
We are constantly looking at our security protocols on all of our bases, both in CONUS and around the world. We absolutely will want to learn from this investigation. We do not want something like this to ever happen again on an Army base. And so if there are things we can do to improve safety, we will take those steps. But right now, we're really early in the investigation.
Mr. Secretary,
Yeah.
Faith Alube with
Hey,
ABC
Faith.
News. Thanks for being here. How did the suspect get a gun, his personal gun, past security onto the base and to his workplace?
Faith, as I just remarked to your colleague, we are still early in the investigation. The shooting happened yesterday. CID, I can have him come up and tell you what we've learned so far. Our commitment is what we learn will be disclosed. It will be transparent. Justice will be brought on behalf of these victims and the community that was harmed.
Good morning. As the Secretary mentioned, this is still an active investigation. We are still processing the scene with all the resources and capabilities that the Army's Criminal Investigation Division has to offer, which is immense. We have surged people from this entire region. In light of the fact that we're still processing, I'm going to have to defer that question for now.
Is it normal to have a personal gun on base?
No, that would be a violation.
And next question.
Mr. Secretary, Ryan Young from CNN.
Hey, Ryan.
How you doing? You got a chance to meet with your families, and obviously we won't have that chance. You got a chance to meet with them, talk to them. You seem very proud of how everyone reacted. Can you tell us what that was like being with families? What's the state of the name right now? Share with the public who's concerned about the approach obviously being established.
Ryan, was heartbreaking, sitting in there and seeing their soldier, their daughter, sitting behind them, struggling. Our hearts broke with them. We tried to hug them. We tried to convey from the President and the Vice President and the Secretary of Defense that our entire nation mourns with them. We stand behind them. It has been only a couple of hours for them. I think they are still processing through it. But what we wanted to convey is we will be here with them every single step of the way. The United States Army is committing every resource we need to get these soldiers back into their formations as quickly as we possibly can. And then one of the things that we had said at the meeting earlier with the soldiers from this unit is, General Lucas and I were reflecting on this in the car ride. These kind of moments, especially if you've deployed, you've gotten to see them more frequently. The trauma from them often doesn't hit for weeks or months on it. Like it doesn't come as quickly as you might think. And so what we try to encourage for all of our soldiers is to speak up, lean on each other, lean on your leadership, and we will provide the resources, the care, and the love that they need to recover.
About what it was like to meet those families as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. It's heartbreaking. It's painful to see them struggling with a wounded family member. They expressed that they were incredibly proud of their soldier, as we are, and they asked for prayers. So we appreciate all the prayers that have been sent our way, and we would ask you to keep them coming.
General Lucas, Priya Sridhar with NBC News.
Yes, Scott Evans with CBS News here. Quick question for you. Can you describe the condition of those who are injured? I know there's a new line of business about these. I know the general you said yesterday they're expected to be okay, but just nature of the injuries, what?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Of the 5 wounded soldiers, 3 were released yesterday, which is amazing considering the circumstances and the ranges at which they were engaged. 1 soldier remains as an inpatient here at Wynn Army, right here on Fort Stewart. She's doing very well in high spirits. Of course, she's got a little bit of a road to recovery. We're hopeful she may be released as early as this weekend, but that will just depend on how things heal up over the next couple days. And we have 1 soldier that remains at Savannah Memorial Community Hospital, who I visited with the secretary this morning. She's got a little bit longer road to recovery. The doctors are very positive, but I think it's going to take her a bit longer to recover. But they're very hopeful she's going to make a complete recovery.
General Lucas, this is Priya Sridhar with NBC News. I know you guys are prepared for scenarios like this when you go to war zones or on combat deployments, but have you gotten an opportunity to speak to some of the soldiers in this unit about how they're processing that this attack occurred from one of their own, and how are you processing that as a leader?
Yeah, I think we train for this on the battlefield, and it's a different situation when it happens on an installation with one of your own. So I think over the upcoming days and weeks, as the Secretary said, people are going to process this and work through this at different rates. And we know we've got to keep a very close eye on them. We've got to wrap our arms around them. We've got a great community here, a great response. As you saw from all the folks the Secretary recognized this morning, the support from the local community, just amazing. So we feel that this demonstrates that we trained internally for the worst case scenario, and our doctors and our medics and our soldiers responded exactly as we trained them to do. And now our job is to make sure that we care for them as they work through this. Thank you.
And I just want to recognize behind me to the right, these are the 6 soldiers we were able to recognize today. And they, I mean this as sincerely as humanly possible. I and the administration, President Trump, could not be more proud of them. They are everything that is good about this nation. They are the best among us in our country. They are the best among us in the Army. They acted in a way that I think all of us hoped we would under fire, but they did. And so we are just so incredibly proud of them. We are so grateful for them. And one of the things we told them and their colleagues is that we will stand with them as long as we need to get them back where they need to be.
Russ Bond with the AP. Can you all give us a sense going forward what's going to happen next where the criminal justice process goes? Has the suspect been actually charged yet? If so, what charges are you facing? The military system wants to.
It does.
Suspect is currently in custody, and we are working through the Military Uniform Code of Military Justice process at this time.
Is he going to be transferred to a military detention facility?
That is likely.
Do you know when or which one?
No.
You also talked about processing the scene. Can you tell us what's going on today in processing the scene? I imagine you're going to showcase any pictures. Can you just describe that for us?
Certainly a tragic scene where our soldiers train, but the process of a scene would normally encompass digital evidence, forensic evidence, trace evidence, all of those things which our team is currently doing.
And was this captured on video since it was inside the facility?
I can't comment on that at this moment.
Just a point of clarification from yesterday, we were told you, chain of command was not aware of the arrest for the DUI off base. Can you explain if you had been aware what the procedure would have been? Would he have been disciplined? Would he have been taken out?
Because we are one day into the investigation, we can't reveal those kinds of things. I think what we try not to do is speculate or do hypotheticals, and so each soldier, each instance, we take very seriously. Something like a DUI or another issue that could occur in the community, that impacts how we treat that soldier in our formations. We want holistically powerful and controlled and competent soldiers, and so we are constantly reflecting on our mechanisms and procedures as an Army so that we're able to capture that information and hold soldiers accountable.
Are they usually disciplined after an arrest?
It varies based off the case. I think, any other questions?
We got time maybe for one more question.
Yeah.
Jill Kovac from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. General, could you speak at all, just to give some insight at all on the acts of bravery that you've heard about in this episode?
Yeah, sure. I think, as the Secretary mentioned, we have 6 incredible soldiers behind us, but this is just representative of the larger formation. Once the shooter was identified and a threat was identified, we had soldiers that immediately raced and tackled that soldier, wrestled the gun away, subdued him. A second non-commissioned officer jumped on top to further restrain him until the police could arrive. And then simultaneously, no one hesitated. Most of these soldiers behind me and others in the crowd immediately started applying first aid and, most importantly, stopped the bleeding. And when we spoke to the surgeons in the hospital, it was clear that the actions they took, primarily stopping that bleeding before they were loaded up into ambulances and quickly evac'd to Wynn Army Medical, certainly saved their lives.
Are they back to work today?
I'm sorry, are we
Are
back
they
to work?
back to work, or are they taking some time off?
Well, today is a day that we focused on bringing the brigade and the unit together so they could support one another, so we could, of course, get right back at it, but it's also a day where we're going to focus on ensuring that they're getting the support they need.
General
Thank you.
Lewis, can you give us a general sense of how long this all happened from that first shot fired to when your brave soldiers were able to tackle the gunman?
I can. It was an incredibly fast response, and I do attribute this to the training that this installation has done and the teams here have done. So at approximately 10:56, the incident was reported, and that went out over sort of an all-calls net. That triggered a lot of responses. That triggered our installation emergency medical services, our police, our fire, our emergency medical services to respond. But it's also monitored by the local community, and then we requested assistance. At 11:04, we initial lockdown of the installation. So that was pretty quick. That wasn't me. That was the director of DES and the garrison commanders that immediately made that right call and that decision. At about 11:09, emergency personnel were dispatched to treat the wounded. At 11:35, the shooter was apprehended by the soldiers and the law enforcement. Several behind us and several in the crowd that we recognized earlier. So really what that means, we had about 13 minutes after that first report, we already had people, ambulances, fire, fish and game, military police responded and were on the scene. And then we had local support from the amazing community here. We had the first SWAT team arrive from off post within 20 minutes on site, which is truly incredible. So we're incredibly grateful for the support from the community. I'm incredible for our leadership that trained our soldiers to react this way. And then, as the Secretary said, we're incredibly proud of the soldiers themselves. Thank you.
Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have. Thank you guys for coming. We are going to stand by. I think we have some time that we can talk to the soldiers, but unfortunately, that's the time that we'll have with the Secretary and with General Lewis.
Thank you for coming. We're grateful for all of you.
Today, we're proud to commemorate Purple Heart Day. Created in 1782 by General George Washington, the Purple Heart Medal is the oldest military award still presented to American warriors. We award this medal to our brave troops wounded or killed in action. Over 1.8 million patriots have earned this award, each one of them sacrificing for us, for our country, and for our security. So on this Purple Heart Day, please join us in remembering and honoring these great Americans. We are grateful for their selfless service. We will never forget their heroism, and we strive to possess their courage. And that's why I'm proud to be joined by Assistant Secretary of Defense Sean Parnell, who received a Purple Heart for his sacrifice. Sean, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. A grateful nation never forgets its heroes, its triumphs, or its pain. Recipients of the Purple Heart Award put their bodies and souls on the line for this great country. During those quiet moments, when the flag waves at half-mast, we remember not just the medals pinned to their chests, but the scars etched into their stories. The ones that whisper of battles fought in distant lands and freedoms defended at an unthinkable cost. These men and women didn't ask for glory. They demanded it through sheer will, turning fear into fortitude and chaos into courage that echoes through generations to this very day. They are the best among us because they inspire the best within us. And so on this Purple Heart Day, we honor them not with empty words, but with a promise to build a nation worthy of their sacrifice, where every citizen stands a little taller because they showed us how. So take a moment to thank a veteran, fly the flag, or simply pause in gratitude.
Thank you, brother.
You got it, my
All I
friend.
can say to that is amen.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver. Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NirvantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to NirvantaHealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
Friends, we all know the truth. Big Pharma and the federal bureaucracy have made a mess of healthcare in this country, and boy, that's an understatement. President Trump signed an executive order to bring prices down, and that's a great step. But we know that real change takes time. There's one pharmacy that is already stepping up. I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy. They're not waiting. They're taking action now with a summer sale that gives you the power to take control of your health. Right now, through the end of June, you get 20% off site-wide, no insurance required. Did you hear that? 20% off site-wide, no insurance required. They work with licensed doctors in all 50 states, and they ship fast straight to your door. Whether it's ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, antibiotics, emergency kits, or your daily prescriptions, this is a time to stock up. If you believe in medical freedom, if you're tired of waiting for someone else to fix things, do what I do. Take action. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell and use promo code Lindell20, Lindell 20 for 20% off your entire order. That's allfamilypharmacy.com Lindell. Promo code Lindell20. Let's protect our families, defend our freedom, and make America healthy again together.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NirvantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to NirvantaHealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally. Swollen limbs, joint pain, inflammation, skin aging, and cognitive decline. These are just a few of the awful side effects that you can experience due to poor blood circulation. And popping ibuprofen is not a solution to the pain. It's only temporary relief, and it's only masking the true problem, which is inflammation. Researchers are saying to add this Antarctic super nutrient to your diet. I'm talking about omega-3 fatty acids, but not just any form of omegas. These particular omega-3 fatty acids are sourced from wild-caught krill. Has been shown to support healthy blood pressure, circulation, brain health, as well as reduce inflammation, swelling, and joint pain. For a limited time, you can grab Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil for up to 66% off plus free shipping. Just go to getkrill.com/Lindell right now to get your special offer. With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their